Welcome the rare gems. Lions don't lose sleep over the opinions of sheep. If you're a Sigma female, you've probably felt like a magnet for criticism, envy, or manipulation. People target you, not because there's something wrong with you, but because there's something undeniably right about you. You're independent, self-assured, and unapologetically yourself in a world that thrives on fitting in. And that terrifies people. When you refuse to follow the crowd, you disrupt their comfort zones. Your silence speaks louder than words, your confidence unsettles insecurities, and your boundaries expose those who don't respect them. These are the traits of someone who stands tall, no matter how many try to pull them down. But here's the harsh truth. Being a Sigma female isn't easy. It's a path filled with resistance, misunderstandings, and yes, even attacks. But don't let that dim your light. In this video, we're breaking down 11 brutally honest reasons why people target Sigma females like you. Watch closely, because understanding these truths will only make you stronger. Remember, their attacks aren't about your weakness. They're about your power. So let's dive in. Number 1. They're hard to read, making them an easy scapegoat. Sigma females are masters of discretion, often keeping their thoughts and intentions close to the chest. They don't overshare or feel the need to explain themselves to others, which makes them an enigma to those around them. This guarded nature, while a source of their strength, also makes them a convenient scapegoat. People tend to fear or mistrust what they don't understand, and a Sigma's mysterious demeanor can easily be misconstrued as secrecy or guilt when things go wrong. In a world where most people wear their emotions and motives on their sleeves, the Sigma's silence is unsettling. She doesn't react impulsively or reveal her every move, and that ambiguity makes her a wild card in the eyes of others. When chaos or conflict arises, this lack of visibility often puts her in the line of fire. After all, it's easier to blame someone you can't read than to confront the real source of the problem. This blame isn't always direct. Sometimes it comes in the form of subtle accusations or sideways glances, as others project their insecurities and misunderstandings onto her. Other times it's outright scapegoating, where she becomes the target of suspicion simply because she doesn't fit neatly into the expectations of those around her. The irony is that her detachment from drama often makes her the last person to be involved in such situations, but that same detachment is weaponized against her. For the Sigma, this is a harsh truth she's learned to navigate. She knows her reserved nature makes her misunderstood, but she refuses to compromise her authenticity for the sake of fitting in. Instead, she quietly endures, understanding that those who truly know her will see past the blame and recognize the strength in her silence. Number 2, they don't fight for power. They already have it. Sigma females don't play the power games that so many people thrive on. They don't need to fight for dominance or attention, because they already possess an inner strength that commands respect. Their power isn't loud, and it isn't built on forcing others to bend to their will. It's an inherent quality that others can't ignore. The problem is, power-hungry individuals who feed on control and competition can't stand this quiet authority. They need to fight for their place at the top, constantly proving their dominance. To them, anyone who isn't actively vying for power is either weak or doesn't know how to play the game. But for the Sigma female, there's no game to play. She doesn't have to prove herself because her power speaks for itself. It's unsettling to those who live for status, who can't imagine operating in a world where power isn't tied to titles, manipulations, or battles of ego. They can't comprehend that kind of presence, so they often turn their frustration outward. If they can't conquer her, they'll try to discredit or undermine her. They attack what they can't control, and in doing so, reveal their own insecurities and desperation. The truth is, Sigma females have a kind of power that can't be taken away. It isn't about control or manipulation. It's about a quiet confidence that doesn't need anyone's approval. That's what makes them such a threat to those who need to dominate others to feel valid. But no matter how hard they try, they'll never succeed in dismantling what can't be bought, bargained for, or bullied into submission. Number 3, people hate what they can't control. People hate what they can't control because it makes them feel powerless. And for a Sigma female, this reality plays out every single day. When someone encounters a sigma, they quickly realize she doesn't respond like most people. She doesn't chase approval, bend to expectations, or fall for emotional traps. This unshakable nature unnerves those who rely on control to feel secure. It's like holding a rope and realizing the other person isn't pulling. It throws them off balance. Sigma females live by their own rules, not out of rebellion, but because they've mastered the art of self-trust. They don't need external validation to make decisions, and they're not easily swayed by emotional drama. To people who thrive on manipulation, this is maddening. The usual tools, guilt, flattery, intimidation, don't work, and that failure feels like a blow to their ego. So they push harder. They prod, provoke, and test, hoping to find a weak spot. But here's the kicker. A Sigma's patience isn't a sign of weakness. It's a deliberate choice. She sees through the games but refuses to give others the satisfaction of a reaction. This infuriates people who crave power because their inability to control her feels like personal failure. The harder they try, the more she stands firm, exposing just how fragile their sense of control really is. It's a painful mirror, reflecting their own insecurities back at them. And instead of accepting this truth, they lash out, hoping to break what they can't bend. But Sigma females don't break. Their resilience isn't just a trait, it's a way of life. They know that control is an illusion and refuse to let others dictate their worth. This quiet strength is exactly why people hate what they can't control. It's their power, not their patience, that makes them unstoppable. Number 4, they make opportunists feel exposed. Opportunists operate in the shadows, quietly manipulating situations and people to serve their own interests. They rely on others' naivety, trust, or desperation to get what they want. But a Sigma female is a glaring exception. She sees right through their games, often before they even begin. This sharp awareness acts like a blinding spotlight, illuminating motives that most people fail to notice. And for manipulators, this exposure is both humiliating and infuriating. Sigma females are highly attuned to subtleties, changes in tone, body language, or the unspoken intentions behind someone's words. Opportunists who are used to moving undetected find themselves unnerved by her ability to call out what others miss. She won't always confront them outright. Sometimes her refusal to engage is enough to make them feel powerless. This lack of access to her mind or emotions drives them to desperation because their usual tricks, flattery, guilt, or deceit, don't work on her. Feeling exposed, manipulators often react with hostility. Instead of reflecting on their actions, they double down, trying to tarnish her reputation or undermine her credibility. They might spread rumors, paint her as cold or untrusting, or label her as too difficult. But these tactics rarely succeed because a Sigma female's integrity speaks for itself. She doesn't need to prove her worth. Her consistent actions do that for her. What truly enrages opportunists is that the Sigma female not only avoids their traps, but also subtly teaches others how to recognize manipulation. Her presence alone disrupts their carefully constructed schemes, making her a threat to their survival. The harder they push, the more they reveal their true nature, leaving them exposed not just to her, but to everyone around them. For a Sigma, this isn't just vigilance, it's her power, and it's unshakable. At number 5, they don't feed the ego of narcissists. Narcissists live for attention. They crave admiration and feed off the validation of others to maintain their fragile sense of superiority. But when they encounter a Sigma female, their entire game plan falls apart. Sigma females refuse to participate in the endless cycle of ego-stroking that narcissists depend on. They don't flatter, fawn, or entertain manipulative behavior. Instead, they offer silence, a quiet rejection that narcissists can't handle. This refusal to play along feels like a direct attack to a narcissist. They're used to people falling in line, either out of fear or a need to be liked. But a Sigma's self-worth doesn't depend on anyone's approval, least of all a narcissist's. She doesn't give them the reactions they seek, and this lack of attention forces them to confront the emptiness they're desperately trying to avoid. That's why her quiet resistance feels so threatening. To a narcissist, a Sigma female isn't just ignoring them, she's exposing them. Her indifference highlights the hollowness of their inflated self-image. They can't manipulate her into admiration. so they try to regain control by lashing out. They'll attempt to demean her, spread lies, or create conflict hoping to provoke a reaction. But a Sigma female doesn't bite. She sees their tactics for what they are, a desperate attempt to regain relevance. This dynamic enrages narcissists because it challenges their fabricated sense of superiority. The Sigma's calm, grounded energy is a stark contrast to their fragile ego, making them feel small in comparison. And that's the harsh truth. A Sigma female doesn't have to fight a narcissist to win. Her refusal to feed their ego is victory enough, and it's a power they can never take away. Number 6. They're proof that freedom isn't just a dream. Sigma females embody a level of freedom that many people only fantasize about. They live life unapologetically on their own terms, guided by their principles, desires, and values rather than societal expectations. This isn't just about breaking rules or being rebellious. It's about redefining what it means to live authentically. They've chosen to walk paths that others often fear to tread, proving that true freedom isn't just a lofty ideal. It's entirely possible. But this kind of freedom doesn't sit well with everyone. Many people feel trapped by the expectations of society, family, or peers, adhering to unwritten rules that dictate how they should act, think, or live. They conform, not necessarily out of choice, but because stepping outside the lines feels too risky. When they see a Sigma female thriving without bending to these pressures, it shines a light on the limitations they've imposed on themselves. This realization creates discomfort, sometimes even resentment. Instead of questioning the systems or beliefs that confine them, they direct their frustration toward the Sigma. Her choices challenge their worldview, forcing them to confront the possibility that their own lack of freedom is self-inflicted. To protect their fragile sense of normalcy, they attempt to invalidate her decisions, labeling her as selfish, rebellious, or even unrealistic. But these efforts to discredit her only underscore the strength of her choices. The Sigma female doesn't need anyone's approval to validate her lifestyle, and this independence is precisely what makes her so powerful and so unsettling. She's a living example that freedom isn't just a dream but a decision, and that truth can be too much for some to handle. For her, life isn't about fitting in, it's about breaking free, and she does it with grace and conviction. Number 7. They don't care about popularity. In a society where social status, likes, and followers are currency, Sigma females are a breath of fresh air. They don't care about being popular, and they certainly don't chase the fleeting validation that comes from fitting in. For them, true value isn't measured by the number of people who approve of their choices or follow their lead. Instead, they focus on what matters to them, living authentically and pursuing personal growth, no matter what others think. This indifference to popularity is what sets them apart, and it's exactly what makes them a target. Those who are deeply invested in climbing the social ladder, earning admiration, or following the latest trends find this attitude incomprehensible. To them, popularity isn't just an ambition, it's an obsession. When they see someone who has no interest in the game, it's as if their carefully constructed world of social hierarchies and approval is being called into question. They feel threatened because, in their minds, success is built on being seen and admired. The Sigma female doesn't play that game, and that lack of need for external validation shakes them to the core. For those whose entire sense of worth is tied to the social mirror, the Sigma's indifference is a quiet challenge to their whole way of thinking. They can't fathom the peace that comes from rejecting the pressure to conform, and instead of respecting that freedom, they resent it. They'll try to provoke, criticize, or even sabotage, hoping to make her care about popularity, something they'll never truly understand. But the Sigma female is impervious to their attempts because she knows that real strength comes from within, not from a social media feed or the number of people who cheer her on. At number 8, they don't let others define them. Sigma females don't let anyone tell them who they are. They don't bend to society's norms, peer pressure, or the opinions of others. They know who they are and live by their own rules, regardless of how the world tries to mold them. This independence is what makes them so hard to understand and even harder to control. In a world where so many people follow the latest trends, care about fitting in, or desperately seek approval, the Sigma female stands out as a reminder that true strength lies in being yourself without needing anyone else's validation. For those who thrive on groupthink and societal approval, Sigma females are a threat. The world runs on external influences, and most people are deeply shaped by the expectations of their family, peers, and culture. These people are easy to manipulate because they rely on others for guidance, comfort, and definition. They'll follow the crowd without ever questioning if it's truly what they want. Sigma females, however, aren't interested in fitting into any mold, and that defies the basic structure that others use to navigate life. This makes them a target. People who seek control or who have a deep fear of being different look at the Sigma female's refusal to be defined and feel unsettled. They want to drag her down, force her into a box, or make her conform to something that fits their narrative. But Sigma females aren't interested in being shaped by anyone but themselves. It's this self-assurance that makes them so powerful. It's also why others will try to break them, because they're a living reminder that the only true definition of self comes from within. Number 9. Their unpredictability breeds anxiety. People thrive on predictability because it gives them a sense of control. They like to know what to expect, how others will react, and where they stand. But Sigma females? They shatter that illusion. Their entire existence defies the typical scripts people rely on. They don't fit into neat little boxes, follow social norms, or operate on anyone's timeline but their own. This unpredictability doesn't just unsettle people, it downright terrifies them. Sigma females aren't unpredictable in a chaotic or reckless way. They're unpredictable because they don't follow the same rules as everyone else. They make decisions based on their own values, not what's expected of them. They can walk away from situations others would cling to, decline opportunities most would fight for, and choose solitude over superficial connection. And the worst part for others? They do it with a quiet confidence that doesn't need explanation or justification. This throws people off balance. They don't know how to handle someone who doesn't react the way they expect. Most people try to influence others to fit their narrative, but with a Sigma, that's impossible. She doesn't give predictable reactions, doesn't play into emotional games, and doesn't offer the reassurance of familiarity. For those who rely on control or thrive in structured environments, her unpredictability feels like a threat. This anxiety pushes people to try and bring her down to their level. They'll project their fears onto her, criticize her choices, or attempt to label her as difficult or distant. It's all an effort to make her conform, to put her back in a box they can understand. But a Sigma female can't be boxed in, and that's what makes her not just unpredictable, but unstoppable. At number 10, they attract attention without seeking it. There's something effortlessly captivating about Sigma females. They don't try to impress, seek applause, or demand recognition, yet their presence alone draws people in. It's not loud or flashy, it's magnetic. Whether it's their self-assurance, quiet strength, or the way they move through life on their own terms, others can't help but notice. This natural gravitas makes them the center of attention, even when they're not asking for it. For people who thrive on being noticed, this effortless charisma is infuriating. They've spent so much energy trying to be seen, through loud personalities, over-the-top gestures, or constant self-promotion, only to feel overshadowed by someone who isn't even competing. A Sigma female doesn't need to demand respect, it's simply given. And for those who struggle to command the same level of admiration, that disparity can sting. The jealousy this stirs is subtle at first, but it often turns ugly. Instead of reflecting on why they can't achieve the same kind of influence, some people project their insecurities onto the Sigma. They'll criticize her as too distant, too aloof, or too lucky, trying to downplay the qualities that make her stand out. But this only reinforces her power. A Sigma's influence doesn't rely on validation from others, it's rooted in her authenticity. This organic attention threatens those who feel they have to constantly fight for relevance. It forces them to confront an uncomfortable truth. Charisma isn't something you can fake. It's earned through being real, consistent, and unapologetically yourself. And that's exactly what Sigma females embody, making them not just magnetic, but also impossible to ignore. The more others try to compete, the more they reveal the gap between fabricated charm and genuine presence. Number 11. They defy labels, leaving people frustrated. Society thrives on labels. People feel comfortable when they can categorize others into neat boxes like leaders, followers, alphas, or betas. These labels simplify the world and give a sense of control over how to interact with others. But Sigma females don't play by those rules. They defy every attempt to be boxed in, living a life that refuses to conform to standard roles or expectations. This refusal to fit into society's predefined structures leaves people baffled and often frustrated. A Sigma female isn't a leader in the traditional sense, yet she commands respect. She isn't a follower, yet she's perfectly capable of collaborating when it serves a meaningful purpose. She doesn't chase dominance like an alpha or seek validation like a beta, and this complexity confounds those who rely on simplistic ways of understanding the world. When people can't figure out where she belongs, they feel uneasy, as though her very existence is a challenge to their worldview. This frustration often leads to attempts to define her forcefully. People might label her as cold, distant, or uncooperative, projecting their own discomfort onto her. Others may try to undermine her, hoping that breaking her independence will make her easier to categorize. But none of it works. The Sigma female's essence lies in her ability to transcend these labels, proving that identity isn't something you inherit or adopt. It's something you create. For some, this is inspiring. It shows that there's another way to exist, one where you don't have to conform to societal expectations. But for others, it's a threat. When someone refuses to fit into the system, it forces everyone else to question the system itself. And for those unwilling to face that truth, the easiest response is frustration or even hostility toward the one who exposes it. Sigma females don't let anyone tell them who they are. They don't bend to society's norms, peer pressure, or the opinions of others. They know who they are and live by their own rules, regardless of how the world tries to mold them. This independence is what makes them so hard to understand and even harder to control. In a world where so many people follow the latest trends, care about fitting in, or desperately seek approval, the Sigma female stands out as a reminder that true strength lies in being yourself without needing anyone else's validation. For those who thrive on groupthink and societal approval, Sigma females are a threat. The world runs on external influences, and most people are deeply shaped by the expectations of their family, peers, and culture. These people are easy to manipulate because they rely on others for guidance, comfort, and definition. They'll follow the crowd without ever questioning if it's truly what they want. Sigma females, however, aren't interested in fitting into any mold, and that defies the basic structure that others use to navigate life. This makes them a target. People who seek control or who have a deep fear of being different. Look at the Sigma female's refusal to be defined and feel unsettled. They want to drag her down, force her into a box, or make her conform to something that fits their narrative. But Sigma females aren't interested in being shaped by anyone but themselves. It's this self-assurance that makes them so powerful. It's also why others will try to break them, because they're a living reminder that the only true definition of self comes from within. Thanks for watching. See you in our next video. Bye for now, and God bless.